Worlds Part 2, the next update for No Man's Sky, looks like it's pushing the boundaries of exploration, but Hello Games might need a bit more time cooking. We've got lots of big data mines with some interesting details on how the studio is planning to further expand the game's massive universe in Worlds Part 2 with many new features, hints of Line of Fire assets, as well as possible a PS5 Pro upgrade. So lots to talk about in this video about all the things that have leaked and have been data mined until now, so let's jump right in. That being said, Worlds Part 1 was just the beginning, and as big as it might be, it looks like lots more will follow with Part 2. However, recently there's been a stealth change on that initial later this summer release date on the update page to just later, likely indicating that Hello Games still needs more time to flesh out some of the new features. More on that in a bit and why I think this can tie into the still planned for 2024 release of the PS5 Pro, but in the meantime we've got some heavy hints and even mods that partially uncovered some of the features we're about to see with Part 2. And even in this early unfinished state, a lot of this actually looks really exciting. I'm sure this has already made quite a few rounds, but there are some big hints towards an entirely new major solar classification. Huge shout out of course to the Bomber Boy over on Twitter, as most of this info is based on his data mine work, but from the game files, all clues point towards a new type of purple solar system, beyond just the typical yellow, green, red, and blue we already have in the base game. As some of you might have noticed, if you accidentally got this UI to pop up in your game, the currently unnamed star system type would require indium, atlantidium, and also inverted mirrors to craft the hyperdrive needed to travel there. Of course, we don't know the name of these. It's also possible that these components are just placeholders for now, but it's not the first time dissonant resources would play a huge role into either major upgrades or even plot points. And before you ask, no, this isn't just an internal reference to the already existing dissonant systems either, as it seems that the purple stars have their own entries under the stellar color classification, indicating that they are a completely new type of solar system. Beyond this, there's been quite a bit of evidence that purple systems will also have a unique species of creatures spawning only in them and might even have a unique indicator inside the galactic view, similar to how the Atlas and the black hole systems also have their own. So this begs the question, do we also get a tech upgrade to permanently reveal them in the galactic view? Kinda like how you can also reveal black holes permanently at the end of the Atlas storyline. I guess we're gonna wait and see. That being said, I think that the biggest takeaway here is that purple systems might finally give Hello Games the chance to perform more drastic changes to the universe without necessarily having to also reset the whole universe, kind of like how they just did again after so many years. Purple systems could serve as a self-contained environment to add more wild biome variations, but again, this just might be speculation. And I'm saying that because there are at least 5 currently unreleased biome types in different stages of completion. A lot of them actually very early stages, but this might or might not end up being specific to the purple stars. Now my favorite, and again big props to Bomber Boy, has to be the new Ruins biome. If you want to check all of these for yourself, there's actually a bigger mod that contains them and you can check it out over on Nexus Mod. But the Ruins biome seems to borrow a lot of the artwork and even structures that we've seen so familiar in other Hello Games projects, including the last Campfire, but more recently Light No Fire. Like, definitely a lot of them remind me of some of the shots we had in the previous trailer release. It seems this is a subtype exclusive to the Lush biomes, and it can also spawn with the same color palette as other Lush biomes, so it's not just green that you can see, there's also blue and red that I've seen thanks to the new mod. Now the desert/hot planets also appear to have their own subtype in the works, though in a much more early stage than the previous. But best of all, there are 3 underwater sub-biomes partially already started in different stages of work, likely hinting that Hello Games is by far not done with the underwater exploration. In fact, there have been references of deep water regions on planets in the game's files. But what exactly makes these deep water regions more unique than the regular underwater regions already in the game? Well, there are already a few references in the game files. On one side, these deep water biomes are said to also feature a much lower depth. So of course, this is something that we asked for a very long time. Currently, it seems that most of the game's oceans are very shallow. You can just go in and it doesn't take too long until you hit the bottom, with very few exceptions. You might encounter a planet with a very deep ocean every now and then, but that's kind of like the exception, not really the rule. And then there's also the second component, which is kind of like a layer of difficulty. In this case, if you go into deep water, this is going to also drain your oxygen much faster. So I really like this element of surprise and difficulty. I would definitely love a more difficult version of the underwater exploration, kind of make it more of a challenge and give you more reasons to go out there and explore, or maybe even set up a very deep water base. Given how it's been a minute since the last time we got underwater updates, we might be looking towards an Abyss 2.0 sometimes in the near future. But since we talked about Light No Fire, it's more and more clear that with the launch of Light No Fire, more testing is being done on No Man's Sky engine, and it's likely we're gonna see more of these features kinda cross-pollinating between both of the games. First, we saw the water update, which looks like the one in Light No Fire reveal trailer making its way in No Man's Sky. Then we saw the upgraded clouds and weather effects. Now it's looking like HG is also testing character assets. One such example is of a humanoid player asset rig with some mentions of rabbit heads, rings, and even bows. Sounds familiar? It should, because we've got lots of those in the last trailer for Light No Fire. While I'm not expecting a new playable species anytime soon, it may be that these new rigs might support more complex joint animations, even collisions, as there has been some datamines about that, or who knows, maybe it's just some testing for Light No Fire. I would also not read too much into it, as it could be just some devs debugging stuff in the game's engine in No Man's Sky before they actually get to fully release Light No Fire. And also, by the way, this doesn't imply that whatever character we get is going to have 4 hands. That's just the joints and the positions they can be in, so don't look too far into it. Now, another exciting feature is the unique drop-down camera view for the build mode. This one brings the camera way up higher, almost like an isometric camera, giving you a much clearer overview of the larger bases and structures. Also available via the mod if you want to go ahead and check it out, but it's currently unfinished. However, I did found it to be very useful and very good at better planning out base layouts. And this is basically how I envision this being useful. You start up with the base computer, and then I would immediately go into the new isometric camera, kind of planning out the base layout, starting with the streets and just giving it a rough outline before going in and fine-tuning it with the close-up cameras. But it looks really awesome, however, it's currently a bit buggy. We also talked about purple systems featuring unique creatures before. Now, a few of them can already be found in-game via the mod, and it's basically these translucent variants of creatures, except you can also see their veins, kind of like a jellyfish, and the fact that you can see its insides, which I always found really awesome. Who knows, maybe they might even get some ways to generate light, kind of like how vegetation does on various planets. So these being specific to purple systems might be one of the ways to distinguish them, maybe make the whole thing a lot more sci-fi, but also kind of more cinematic. We also have manta rays, which seem to be in an even more advanced state, still not fully finished, but you can also check them out. We did have some artwork of them before, and they seem to be mostly reserved for marine life. So after all of this is said and done, this only begs the question, when do we get the new release date? With later this summer no longer being a guarantee, we might see actually a push towards fall 2024. On one side, we still have roughly 5 weeks left of Expedition 14, so I would really not expect Worlds Part 2 at least until the middle of September. Second of all, there are heavy hints of a PlayStation 5 Pro update. From the Datamines, it looks like Hello Games already had started implementing the graphics preset options for Trinity, which, as you may or may not know, is the codename for the PlayStation 5 Pro. And by all accounts, the updated console is still scheduled for later 2024. There's no delays, at least at the current date, with rumors of a possible September reveal and a release date scheduled for the second half of November. In fact, Sony even mandated that all game apps for the PlayStation 5 must also support the PS5 Pro starting with the month of September. So Hello Games could take advantage of that, possibly to late 2024 November launch, to also add Worlds Part 2 in No Man's Sky and kind of have it all coincide with the PlayStation 5 Pro release, or maybe a couple of weeks after that, including of course the improvements to performance, ray tracing, and even the rendering that the Pro will bring. So all in all, if you do go for that console, you're going to see a much better looking and playing No Man's Sky game. But this might not even be the only relaunch we get for No Man's Sky, as internal files also feature extended graphics settings for various iPhone and iPad models. Hello Games already caught most of the market. I mean, the game is out on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and the relaunch on the Switch, Linux, and recently the Mac OS pretty much means that everybody can play this game. And with Apple pushing the new gen of iPhones as gaming consoles, it seems like a smart idea to bring No Man's Sky to the platform too. I imagine a lot of people would be interested in playing the game on the go. Apple's been pushing to turn their phone and tablet lines into mini consoles for a while now, so it's likely we'll see more AAA games making their way to the ecosystem. Anyway, no current plans on when all of this is going to launch. Keep in mind that some features have been data mined years in advance before they actually got a full release, so this might just be something that they have for the current and also the longer future, maybe even something that we will see next year. But it looks really exciting and I cannot wait for Worlds Part 2. But let me know down below in the comments what big features are you expecting or really want to see with Worlds Part 2. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.